Hello, in this video I am going to cover credit history. Let's go over some basic concepts that I've covered in a separate video. I recommend you watch them, but let's go over debt. Debt is money you borrow and you have to pay back, usually with a certain amount of interest, and there are certain regulations, or what I should say, not regulations, sort of restrictions around it, and specifics in terms of how often you have to make the payments, any late fees, that sort of stuff. Then you have credit. This is linked to debt because debt is money you borrowed and you have to pay back. Credit is how much you can borrow, and there's usually a maximum amount of that. So credit history is basically the history of everything that you have borrowed. It's the total amount that you borrowed. And let's say over 10 years, every year you borrow £1,000, the total amount of that would be £10,000. It's also the timeliness of your repayments. So if after borrowing after 6 months you have to pay back, if you pay back after 4 months, you paid it back within the 6 month period, and that's considered good. If you pay back late, that is considered bad, so that doesn't look good on your credit history. It's also covers if you keep going in and out of debt. If you keep going in and out of debt as well. So if you have an overdraft facility on your debit card, if you keep making payments and you keep just going below zero, it may be interest free overdraft and you pay back, that doesn't look good on your credit history as well. So it's the amount you borrowed, the individual amounts, how often you've been borrowing as well. Because if you're constantly borrowing stuff, then that obviously affects the credit history, the timeliness of your payments, if you keep going in and out of debt as well. So remember, your credit history, you can just think of it as like a ledger that just has like little lines, little transactions, and these transactions are all money you borrowed, and it has information like the amount you borrowed, when the payments were, and how often you actually made the payments, etc., etc. So that's all credit history is. It's just essentially, if you was to look at it, you could get a view of how good a person is at making payments, and also how much they love debt, how much they love borrowing money and spending money they may not necessarily have. But if that's combined with being able to pay back timely enough, then that's not necessarily a bad thing from the lender's perspective, because they're getting interest on it and that's the way they make their money. So that is credit history. If you have any questions, feel free to hit us up on our Discord group, where there's about 1,700 members currently and growing every day. There's a link in the description. We discuss everything from programming to crypto to finance. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.